Hi everybody, Jill from Thurso Grows here. Friday night, doing our little Go Get Gardening slot. Thought I'd talk to you this week just very quickly about blossom end rot in tomatoes. So something to watch for whilst your green tomatoes are developing and you're hoping to get some lovely big red tomatoes. You need to watch out for blossom end rot caused by a lack of calcium in the fruit. Okay, but one of the reasons why there can be a lack of calcium in the fruit is because your compost can be too dry and it's not getting enough moisture in through the plant, and the calcium is carried in through the moisture, so it's a mobile nutrient. It's what's called a mobile nutrient. So the blossom end rot is caused by a lack of calcium, but it can be poor watering or inconsistent watering, or as I've discovered in this little greenhouse that we've put up recently, in the new greenhouse, it's been really warm in here. Okay, so that's one of the other things. Lots of things, problems like dry weather and high humidity when you're growing inside. Blossom end rot is usually in inside tomatoes. However, I have a friend down south who's growing, and she has her tomatoes outside, and for the first time ever, due to the very humid conditions that they've had down south and the very dry weather, in between times, she's actually found blossom end rot in some of her tomatoes. So my understanding of it was that it was always in indoor tomatoes and not seen in outdoor tomatoes. Hi everybody, so here we are, back in my little greenhouse here. This is my new greenhouse we're in, and I've been having a wee look round all the tomatoes just to see if I've got a little bit of blossom end rot to show you, but I don't, unfortunately. Which in here actually surprises me a little bit, because this greenhouse has been remarkably warm since we put it up. It's a kind of southeasterly type facing greenhouse. It gets a lot of sun during the day when we get sun, and the other thing is it's right against the wall of the house, so it gets a lot of retaining heat from that wall in the evenings. So it's been quite a little bit of a struggle actually to keep the tomatoes in here moist, so given everything else that's going on in my life at the moment. So it's yeah, it's been a wee bit of a challenge. So I can see I watered these yesterday, and if you have a wee look in there, you can see how dry they've gone already, just in the space of 24 hours. So I'm actually quite surprised I haven't got blossom end rot in here. I kind of was expecting to see some. So what are we looking for? Here's our developing tomatoes here. If I just try and zoom in a little bit more on it, you can see it there. And what happens with the blossom end rot is you can see there's the, if I get my fingers out of the way, there's the remaining blossom there at the bottom. Yeah, just pushed it off. So what starts to happen here is these will start to darken in colour near the base, and then they'll start to blacken, and then they'll start to pit. So you'll actually see a large kind of black callus forming at the base of your tomato, and it starts to sink basically. And then it will spread through the tomato. So the moisture levels in your soil are quite important, because what actually causes it is a lack of calcium getting into your developing fruits. Okay, so that calcium, remember, is mobile in the soil. It's a nutrient that's mobile in the soil. So in other words, it's got to have water present in the soil to allow it to be taken up by the roots of the plant, and through that transpiration will pull into your plant and into your tomatoes to keep it topped up with water, but also to allow it to get that mobile calcium nutrient into the tomatoes, because it's a lack of calcium that causes the blossom end rot. So I thought we'd have a very quick look at what we mean by transpiration and why it's important, and how the plant gets that calcium into the fruits. If we have a very quick look at this little diagram here, we've got our soil particles here, okay, within our compost layer obviously, and this little bit here is just a root hair. So if you can imagine, this has been magnified, okay. So we have our water molecules all around our soil particles, and they can move two ways. They can move into the root hairs by a process called osmosis, or they can move through the cell walls by a process called diffusion. Now we don't need to remember all of that, but we just need to know that those little root hairs are pulling that water in, okay? And where it gets really clever, if you think of our symbol H2O for water, 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, The water itself has a very slight charge to it. If you were talking about electricity, it has a very, very slight charge to it. And we have two positively charged hydrogen little molecules and one oxygen molecule which is negative, so they attract to each other. And they keep on attracting each other, all these different little water molecules, and they all start sticking together. And again, if we remember from our chemistry and our biology, that's called cohesion. And when you've got cohesion, one sticks to another, sticks to another, sticks to another, and it all gets pulled up your plant. It's quite incredible, really. When you think about big tall trees, that's how trees get water right to the very top, is from this cohesion link, and it pulls all the little water molecules all the way up the stem and into the leaves, and then the water can evaporate out of the leaves themselves through special little pores. The bit that we're interested in, though, is down here in the soil. This is the bit that is required to have that water in and amongst the soil, so that the calcium is mobile within the soil, and then it can be taken in the root hairs all the way up your plant, and in our case we want that calcium to go into the fruits. So there you go, just a little bit about blossom end rot for your tomatoes there. You can keep a little eye on them. I had to come outside because I was getting absolutely baked inside the greenhouse. A couple of wee things to remember. Tomorrow in the square between 2 and 4 o'clock we've got our pop-up stall for our veg and things that have been grown up in the community gardens, as well as harvesting more of the vegetables from the square itself. So hopefully the weather will be kind to us and we'll see you in the square tomorrow. And then we've also got a little online event coming up as well, if you keep an eye out on Facebook channels and stuff, for a kind of food waste type workshop. So sort of following on from the meal bags that Anne was delivering to you, and then having a look at using all of the ingredients to ensure that you're using them all correctly, and getting some nice ideas going for food and things as well, some good recipes and that going, but more importantly not sending food waste to landfill, and looking at ways of reducing all of that down for you, and hopefully saving you a few pennies in the bargain as well. Okay, speak to you soon, have a lovely weekend, bye.